Simple answer.
This meeting is being recorded.
Simple answer, no. I didn't see myself in this career path. Originally, I had started out thinking landscape architecture, which was more design-based, but after spending some time in AmeriCorps, I actually found out that I preferred doing more hands-on work. But the reason why I didn't see myself on this career path was sort of a combination of things. Family pressure had a lot to do with it, to choose something that was that you could actually make money from. It was like a big thing, and being told you only had two options. Disownment or college was quite the motivation, but over time you kind of realize, yeah, don't need to use that, and you can choose your own path.
Yeah, thank you, Evany. Yeah, I think many of us here on this call can definitely understand the pressure of family members wanting the best for you, but at the same time also allowing you the freedom to choose. Thank you. Indira?
Thank you, Juanita. No, I had not seen myself on this current career path that I'm on. As maybe a few of you may have guessed from my profile, I grew up and completed most of my education in India. I've always had strong goals of what I wanted to learn, experience, and do in life, not just in academics or my professional life, but also in my hobbies and interests, or altogether my life experience, basically. So when I moved to the US, that was post my marriage, my outlook slightly changed. Prior to that, I was in a profit sector, very high-paced work life. So I wanted to be primarily there for my children and my family, and I also wanted to be associated with doing things that I'm most passionate about. Those are three things: children, animals, and environment, not in any particular order, but basically I do tend to do things around those three areas. So I was lucky to have ample opportunities to delve into these areas. And my current interests are, where children are concerned, social emotional learning and mental health. I have two daughters, so and they're in Girl Scouting, so I help out with that because of, I think it's a great leadership experience. And then for environment, I now work for an environmental nonprofit. So I guess I'm somehow achieving the goals I set out to.
Yeah, Indira, and I think you bring up a really good point of we all have different interests. So it's always nice to find a position where we're able to somehow incorporate all of the things that you like.
True. Very true.
Jonathan?
Yeah, for me, I never thought that I would be working at Canopy when I was younger. I mostly thought that, well, what I thought I would be doing was just going to school or going to college, and then I would be probably just working, probably washing dishes at McDonald's or something in high school. But then when I got the opportunity to work at Canopy, it's just I just took it as to get job experience, and mostly it helped me learn that I didn't come in knowing what I really wanted to do, but it helped me learn that in my future I want to pursue something that will make an impact to the world or in different communities, stuff like that.
Yeah, and as a high schooler, as a teenager, it's very hard to find jobs that that people are willing to take on high schoolers. So Canopy has this opportunity for many high schoolers to come, just like you mentioned, Jonathan, to learn and adapt and gain new skills. Lastly, Arlene.
I love that, Jonathan. Actually, I also worked before, in the restaurant industry, and I always think wow, if I had the tough job while I was at CC, that'd be so cool. Or in high school, that'd be super cool. But no, to answer your question, I never thought I would really find myself in the like urban forestry realm. Definitely now that I think about it, it makes sense, like finding yourself here. It kind of, life takes you different places. But I actually was at my community college in Santa Ana studying a lot of science and chem and maths. I was what classes was I taking? Calculus 2, the Physics 2 series, and OChem when it was like my last semester to transfer, and I dropped all my classes because my brother actually had a heat stroke. I know I've shared this story with a few folks, but it just like completely changed the trajectory of my life. And yeah, it just really made me realize like that I also wanted to do something that involved community, specifically like, you know, the folks that will be impacted the most, since it's only like a specific amount of people that will ever experience a few things like a heat stroke. But I'm really glad that I found Canopy. I feel like I ended up here because I was meant to be here, and it feels really good doing the work that we do. So I'm just happy about that, regardless if I thought I was going to be here or not.
Yeah, Arlene, I think I can say that most of us also can relate to you of like, we never really saw ourselves or, you know, being where we are, but just being okay with changing and not having it all planned out. You know, it's super important. And I completely forgot to ask every single one of you to introduce yourselves and what your role is here at Canopy. So you can please reintroduce yourselves. Let's go with Arlene, and then backwards, Jonathan, Indira, and Evany.
I am the community forestry coordinator for our branching out program that serves East Palo Alto, North Fair Oaks, and Bellhaven.
I am a former TUF, but I am currently attending the University of California, pursuing a mechanical engineering degree.
I am Canopy's volunteer engagement manager, and I interact with all departments wherever volunteers are.
And I'm the other community forestry coordinator for Palo Alto and Mountain View, South Palo Alto and Mountain View. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. And like we mentioned, my name is Juanita.
And my name is Tommy.
And we all have the pleasure of working together. So thank you.
So for the second question, how did you choose this job, and what stood out to you about Canopy? We'll start with
Indira.
Indira? Sure. My daughters were elementary school kids originally, and initially I was looking for part-time opportunities because I wanted to be present for them as well as do something that I was interested in deeply. I was at that phase in life where I said, whatever I do, I really want to be passionate, involved in those three areas, basically. So initially I looked up, environmental organizations nearby, and I happened to come upon the Canopy site. Also, I participated, I think, when Canopy came to my daughter's elementary school, I participated in a planting and used the post ponder for the first time, by the way. But anyways, so I chanced upon the website, and then I found that the volunteer coordinator position was open. So I applied, I got interviewed. Then again, there was a little then they came back to me with a slightly different position because I think they were trying to match 2-3 roles. So they offered the community outreach manager position, which actually involved a little bit of communications and volunteer management. So since I have in my other avatar a little bit of communications background, I think felt it was a good mix. And so I kind of they kind of did a last round of interview. I'm guessing I failed. I can't remember the nitty-gritties now, but then I got selected. So and that's how I'm here at Canopy, loving my job.
Thank you. Jonathan, next.
So I knew about Canopy before. They actually planted a lot of trees at my elementary school. I went to East Palo Alto Charter School, and so they were doing like a tabling event at my high school. I went to Eastside College Prep, and that's when I like met or got introduced to the job as a tub. And so what stood out to me about Canopy is basically it was a way for me to get more connected to my East Palo Alto community, and also do more impact for the community, and also a way for me to get connected to neighboring communities such as the East Menlo Park community and Palo Alto community. Because I felt like I wasn't really involved with my community, and just being able to just make an impact made me feel better, and that's why I chose to be at Canopy for so long.
Thank you. Arlene, would you like to go next?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
How did you choose this job, and what stood out to you about Canopy?
Yeah, I had just finished my undergrad, and my advisor actually is Maya's advisor. And for those of you who don't know, Maya was she had my role. She ran the branching out program before me. So we were all kind of connected, and she forwarded me Canopy's open job position. And I applied. I was really attracted with the branching out program specifically. And I really liked the application too, because it said something like, if you're passionate about environmental justice, but don't know too much about forestry, or the other way around, like, you're a great candidate because we're going to make you love both. And I thought that was just like really cool. Like a big statement to say. It did not fall short. I totally agree with that. But I think that's what drew me to Canopy.
Thank you. Thank you. Evany?
Yeah, so I volunteered with Canopy a few years ago while I was in AmeriCorps with grassroots ecology. I had just like walked downstairs, was meeting people in the building, met Canopy that way. And when I was doing their Great Oak Count, I got to hear a little bit about the mission of providing equitable green access to people in the Bay Area. And I really liked the volunteer aspect. By then, I was starting to really fall in love with the community side of things and getting more involved with community work. So they'd kind of been on my radar. Canopy had definitely been on my radar for a bit since then. But after my AmeriCorps term, I still wasn't quite ready, I guess, to go full nonprofit. I still thought I'd be able to do something with landscape architecture or something like that, and ended up a few years down the line, I ended up not doing anything in that, did another year of AmeriCorps, and saw a Canopy opening just last summer that really fit the experience that I had been, the 2 years of experience that I had been working on. So it felt like the right fit in terms of being able to engage with the community, but also be able to work with plants, which is probably my first love in this career path. So I jumped at the opportunity to apply as soon as I saw it, and definitely held out hope that I'd get the position, and here I am. So I'd probably say what stood out to me would be the mission many years ago. And then I just basically been waiting for an opportunity to apply to Canopy. And kind of almost tailored my experience towards similar types of jobs.
Yeah, thank you all. So I know we did hear a little bit about what attracted you to Canopy. Would everyone be okay with like sharing a glimpse of how your day-to-day looks like? I know working at Canopy, each day is very different. There's not one the same. So just a quick overview so that, you know, people who are interested in Canopy or in the nonprofit sector kind of get a better understanding. We can go Arlene, Indira, Evany, and Jonathan.
Yeah, my day to day looks super different, like just throughout the weeks and the months. Like I'm gonna point out October because I'm pretty sure I cried to like almost all my coworkers. It was such a month. And it was like having to do a bunch of field work and having to do a bunch of computer work all within the same week. There's other weeks where it's like 3 days of field work. I go pick up a tree, I go look for healthy trees to plant, or I do site visits. I see like planting designs being implemented, making sure that everything that needs to get covered in the field is covered. And then when I'm working like at home or remote, I'm emailing, doing like data tracking. There's 2 points in the year where we report for CAL FIRE. So we basically calculate all the greenhouse gases that the trees that we planted throughout a different period of the year will calculate to. So basically just showing the impact to our community and reporting on that to the state, which are our funders, and then just doing bits and pieces of that. My favorite part would for sure have to be just engaging with folks, having conversations like during the site visits, or working on a new project and like collaborating, doing those initial meetings, getting to know folks and expanding our network. I specifically love working with schools. I think it's super nice when schools reach out to us and they've already are super on board with what Canopy's mission is, and they love the idea and bringing more trees to like their students and all those benefits that the trees are going to have. And it's always just like such nice energy when you meet people like that and start a project based off that energy. It's super nice. Kip Esperanza is one of them, Kip Valiant. Those are a few just from this year, but last year, 2021 to 2022, we did EPACs, all 5, and a few others too. Hoover and Taft are also, but those are just a few.
Yeah, thank you, Arlene. And for those of you who aren't unaware with our planting season, October tends to be one of the heavy ones. But Arlene, like she always pulls through. So we are very grateful to have you. Indira?
Yeah, thank you. So mine's a full-time role, and I work 5 days a week, and my work days are Tuesdays to Saturdays. For me, the day-to-day would be primarily I engage with various volunteer groups, individual volunteers who are interested in participating in our events, and I connect with the forestry coordinators as well as our tree care coordinators, because for an event to be successful, our volunteers need to be present and the job needs to be complete of whatever we wanted or planned to do that day. So I'll have numerous interactions actually as the event comes closer with the coordinators, just to make sure that, we have, so X number of planting leaders, number of volunteers, planting groups. So a lot of interaction. So I interact a lot with people. I think it suits my personality and temperament. And I love interacting and engaging with people. And I also like that I work across different departments. So I get a good understanding as well of different parts of the organization. And for, like I mentioned, for a community nonprofit like Canopy, volunteers are essential. They help us do our work, fulfill our mission, and I get to engage and manage them and overall make sure that day's plan for the event goes well. So yeah, that's what my day looks like. And of course, the groups would be different. There would be school groups or youth groups. There would be corporate groups. There'll be just community groups, all those who are interested to participate. And one thing I intentionally do is in all of our events, like each one of our events, public events, I make sure that there's a youth group participating always, whichever community we recruit them from. Primarily because I strongly believe that the new generation needs to be kind of encouraged, and they need to experience about, so when they come to a planting or a tree care event, they can realize how much work goes in what we do, and hopefully by that they kind of get the importance of trees and nature, and how in the urban setting how important it is for them to be also participative and be aware of these things. So yeah, I do that consciously, but otherwise we have mixed different kinds of volunteers who join us.
Yeah, thank you, Indira. And I think you and Arlene really brought up a really good point, that even though we have our own individual responsibilities, we always overlap and we help each other out. Like Arlene sources the trees and she plans like the day and where to plant the trees. And then Indira comes through and she finds all these different volunteers to help us plant like either 5 trees or even 15 trees. So, Evany?
Yeah. Ooh, I'm still learning the position. There's still so many things for me to learn, seeing as how I'm still in my first year. But so far, my day-to-day has been really flexible, right? The ability to be able to choose which days go do what, but I like the hybrid side of it. So there are days when, especially upcoming neighborhood planting, where the need for trees getting ordered and delivered and planned and coordinating with residents becomes sort of a frenzy, and then there's really calm periods. So that ebb and flow it keeps the work really exciting. It's you have like a really exciting social event that you build up to, and then after that you relax a little bit before you ramp up for the next one. And that's sort of how my day-to-day has been looking. On the fast pace side of things, it's getting things done, which feels really good once it all finishes and comes together. And then in between periods, I'm learning different things about the job and getting a chance to work with a lot of the other members of Canopy on other projects. So that's also been really exciting. But really, the day-to-day, I like that I can choose and make it very flexible to work for however my learning style is. So.
Yeah, thank you, Evany. In case many of you are unfamiliar with Canopy's history, when Canopy was first founded, I believe it was a team of 4 or even smaller. And now I want to say that it's triple or even bigger than that. And as Evany mentioned, we all don't know everything, but it's nice to have a group of coworkers that are willing to help you and learn from one another. Jonathan?
So I'm kind of assuming that my day to day is kind of like your guys's. So when I was tough, basically it was like throughout the weekdays we would have like at least 2 days of work designated. So either do like tree work or do project work, or in between those days we would split the time for both. And then Saturdays it would mostly be like planting days or just taking care of different trees depending on the season. And basically, for throughout the weekdays, it was mostly after school, or for Eastside, since we got out at 5, it was during like our last tutorial maybe, and then go throughout school, through after school, and then it would be like 2 to 3 hours each day for throughout the weekday. And then Saturdays we would start like around 8, 9 in the morning, and then go maybe to like 12, 1, maybe no, 1 is kind of pushing it, but yeah, around that. That's how it really was.
Yeah, and actually, when I was onboarded, Jonathan was actually my teacher because I had no knowledge of tree care or how to plant trees. So Jonathan was actually the one who taught me how to plant a tree. So thank you. Then we have one more question.
So for the last question, who inspired you to pursue your career? And were there any obstacles or challenges along the way? The order will go, let's go, Evany, Indira, Arlene, and then Jonathan.
So the easy, or not the easy, but the short answer would be everyone that I met during my first year of AmeriCorps at both Grassroots Ecology and Canopy. Since it was always, they were the same building, but I got to meet everybody and I got to see the similar missions of green equitable, green space equity, but seeing that there's multiple ways to get there. And while I wasn't 100% sure where things were going, but at least I knew that I wanted to work with plants. So that inspiration I definitely attribute to both Canopy and grassroots ecology, being able to see two different sides of the same coin. As for the obstacles, I think the biggest obstacle was the fact that I essentially did a career shift. Starting out with one very specific field of study, landscape architecture, and then not really knowing how to get into more of the community side, nonprofit restoration or urban forestry. And so, you know, I tried one way to do it and then tried another way, only to find out I just didn't have enough work experience. They required a minimum of 2 years in the position that I was in at AmeriCorps. So I took a very long break into the pandemic and then applied for another AmeriCorps term. And then until the Canopy position had opened up, there wasn't really another position for me to that was similar. So I just tried to get as much experience in a nonprofit setting as I could. So doing a field restoration tech position was a temporary way of staying in the field and gaining more experience so that I could eventually find my way here. But yeah, I would definitely say the lack of experience was my biggest challenge. And then myself was also an obstacle. Just feeling like I could never have enough experience to really be a part of, or to really have this kind of role, and feeling like, oh, I'm going to need years and years of education and experience. But the reality is I was qualified. Just like you guys will be qualified and know what you guys are talking about when you guys are done here. So, so yeah, just one of those things that we'll all probably experience at one point or another.
Thank you.
Who inspired? I think for me, I would say, like I said, I was quite clear in how I wanted to, or where I wanted to be when, what I wanted to do when. So the first half I was in, corporate, very corporate, highly fast-paced kind of a job. That experience was great. But once I got family and I kind of had a different outlook, but I knew this. I just wanted to associate it with any of those three fields. So it took a while. So that was a challenge because I want very particular. I wanted to be very specific. So it took a while for me to, look for the organizations, look for the positions that I thought I would fit in and do well. Also, I should be learning something new. My temperament is that I need to be challenged. I need to, or I find ways to challenge myself. So I need to be active that way. So, and this was so it's both a challenge and an excitement for me because this urban forestry was something new. Like, I've not studied for urban forestry. So it was a new field altogether. But that was my interest point, because I said, okay, that means I will learn a lot. And initial months, when everything was new, I just knew the trees, like just what trees are, nothing else beyond that. I kind of got into it. I made an effort. I used to talk to a lot to, Gabby, the coordinators at that time were Gabby and Maya, when they were doing stuff in the field. And Elise was there. So Elise also was a good source. I asked a lot of questions. I think, like Evany said, the lack of knowledge, but I wouldn't see that as a hindrance. I just made me more excited and, look forward to the job. And so that I know I would be learning more and experiencing new things. I also like that, I have, even now, I continuously learn new things, and that opportunity is great. And also at the same time, I have an opportunity to create new programs or opportunities to engage people to be associated with us. So that is very exciting. So, yeah.
Thank you, Indira.
I would have to, yes, I would have to give a lot of credit to a lot of people in my life. I think there's just points in your life where you have to make really big decisions, whether it's a career change or a change in your academic or whatever it is. For sure, my mom, like she's super emotionally intelligent. But I think she's like helped me make really big decisions in my life. Even staying out here in San Jose, I've been over here for 4 years. And I'm like a super mama's girl, but like that choice has been okay because I know that I'm doing what really feels right to me. But definitely my mom, my little brother too, he actually was the one that got a heat stroke when I completely pivoted in school. And then I've met a lot of really great people along the way. I think the environmental field draws a lot of people with passion and like an eagerness to do more for folks and communities and their own communities and other communities that they have nothing being a part of. So yeah, just all those people I've met along the way. Even during my undergrad, I was doing a bunch of different things, just getting bits and pieces of everything. Getting into the restoration field, I actually have a minor in environmental restoration, which I wouldn't give up for anything. But it's like meeting people and doing little bits and pieces of the day-to-day that really guides you here. And then the other part of the question was obstacles.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. That one's tricky. I grew up in SoCal. I'm super close to my siblings and my mom. So definitely that was a hard choice to leave. But it feels good being over here and I'm glad I did it. That was definitely probably one of the biggest obstacles. The pandemic too was pretty intense, as I'm sure all of y'all know. We lived through that. Yeah, I think that would be the big difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene.
For me, I'd say the person who most inspired me, I'd say is my mom, because she's always like pushed me to just try different things, just see what different opportunities can bring me. And then also just like while I continued working at Canopy, I feel just that the feeling of me knowing I can do more to just like my community is what also inspired me, just to like want to do just put an impact in like my community or in the world in general. And I say that some obstacles along the way, like I'd probably just say mostly, I'd say like physical work for Canopy wasn't like the problem with me. I was able to like get up to it with that, but I'd say project work, like I was not as comfortable with my communication skills. Like I pushed myself to speak in front of, like, I forgot which event it was. I believe it was the Bayshore. What was that one called? BCM?
Bayshore Christian
Bayshore
Ministry.
Christian Ministry. Yeah. We had an event there, and I actually spoke in front of like all the volunteers. And before I wasn't able, like I wouldn't have been able to do it. I wouldn't have been able to do that, but just I wanted to just try new things and be more experienced, and so yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, and now we have you here as a guest. So thank you, Jonathan. So I know everyone expressed not being sure about which path to take, if this was the correct one. So if a high schooler would approach you, what advice would you give them? I'll give you a couple of seconds to kind of think about, and then we'll go with Indira, Jonathan, Evany, and Arlene to close this out.
All right. Very, very interesting, and I think an important question, actually. I would say do not fret or get overtly worried. Because in this world, today's world, things are constantly changing and evolving. The opportunities are always there, abound, actually. Even in schools, children are being taught skills that for jobs that are not yet existing, what they call 21st century skills, I think. But one piece of advice I would give is to follow your heart. You set clear goals, work towards them. As human beings, we all kind of grow and change, not just when in school or college, but also as adults, because all those experiences kind of mold us. So keep an open mind, grow and learn from the experiences in your life, and follow your heart. You will be sure to achieve your dreams and anything you set your mind to.
Thank you, Indira.
The advice I give is basically, hold on, can I go next after, actually?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
sorry about
Totally
that.
fine.
Yeah.
I think it was Evany.
Yeah, I would like to echo Indira's advice about how things are constantly changing, so you need to keep an open mind. If you're the kind of person like me who has a lot of different interests, try to look for as many opportunities to experience those interests. Experience really helps. I feel that experience actually really helps you make a decision to really find out how you feel about something. You won't know just based on theory or hearing about it. You learn from experience, and I, as a learn by doing type of person, didn't even know that I liked this career path until I actually tried it and fell in love with it. So if you're looking for tangible opportunities, you can try looking for preferably paid internship opportunities. This is something that you can boost your resume with, and really it doesn't matter what you try as long as you try, because you won't know. And another way I found that was a really helpful way to find out whether you wanted to do something is to try see if there's an AmeriCorps position for it. AmeriCorps, I find, is very similar to the TUF program for 18 plus. It's essentially a chance to learn and network, learn job skills, learn experience. It's very similar to what you guys are doing now, but also they do give you a living stipend, which isn't as good, I think, as how we put it with the TUFs for the TUF program, where you get paid as an employee, but it is essentially a paid volunteership, and they do train you. So if you're looking, and there's so many different fields in AmeriCorps that you can try, that you aren't limited to just environmental if that's something you're not 100% about, but they do education, they do engineering and agriculture. So anything, just try to find some kind of a paid opportunity that you can, either while in high school or post high school. And if you don't want to go to college, I'd also say don't force yourself to. Growing up in that kind of pressure, it's not always helpful. And that's the other advice I'd give, is if you feel like the traditional classroom isn't for you, then don't push yourself to, because you won't feel happy if that's not what you want.
Yeah, thank you, Evany. I think you worded it perfectly. Just trying, honestly, is what matters the most. I know it's definitely scary to think about like what I want to do or what you want to do, but just knowing that as long as you tried, that's what really matters. Jonathan.
I'd also say just trying different opportunities and just experiencing different things is a great idea to get an idea of what you want to do in the future. Just like if I didn't join Canopy, I wouldn't have probably thought about wanting to put an impact to the world in what I will be doing in my degree, because I didn't build a connection with my community. I yeah, I wouldn't have built a connection with my community if I didn't work with Canopy. And like I just say, yeah, just try different things, but also make sure that it's aligned with like your interests. Don't just try to force yourself to do an opportunity that you know that like you're not gonna do good in. But in general, just try to experience new things, because each opportunity, you never know what it can bring to you, and you may be able to learn something new just from any opportunity in general.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And I think you worded it perfectly also, like you know best.
Yeah, also, yeah, I forgot to add, yeah, someone told me, like, if you're really not unsure, like, what are you gonna do with your future? It's probably because you haven't experienced as much as you should have. So that's something that I think about.
Yeah, Jonathan. And I think that also it reminds me of like adults, we are expected to know everything, like know what we want to do. But we're all out here trying to figure it out together. But it's easier when you have a support system. So
I'm going to echo what a lot of y'all said already about just trying new things. High school age students are so little. I'm 24, but it's like so many years apart, and you can do so much throughout that time. You can make a bunch of mistakes and try a bunch of different things, and still, you know, have time to fix and learn and adjust. And don't be scared. You're really young and have so much life ahead of you. But yeah, I'm definitely going to echo that part.
yeah, thank you everyone for answering our questions. This is officially like our questions from Canopy, but we definitely want to open it up to everyone who is on this Zoom call. If you have any questions for any specific speaker, or if you would like to ask the question to everyone, please feel free to unmute yourself, or if you feel more comfortable, please feel free to use the chat box to add your question. If no one has a question, we have a couple questions.
Evany, can you hear me? When you said that like parents like putting pressure on you, like as a child, like what did your parents like put pressure like school wise towards you? Like what did they?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The idea that I had to do very well in school was something that it wasn't even really my parents, it was other family members. And a lot of it was being compared to cousins, relatives, family, friends, kids. And this idea that you needed money to be successful. So it didn't matter what you wanted to do, just as long as you can make money from it. It was that was the overarching goal. So to do well in school so that you can make money. And I get it, from their perspective as immigrants, they needed to know. But that was where a lot of the pressure for school came from, is this weird sense of competition that I never really understood. I was also a bit on the rebellious side. So even though I tried, I honestly did try, but I wasn't like that straight A student. And I think seeing that disappointment from everyone in my family and their friends was the biggest pressure on me to do well. But that's just not feasible. I hope that answered your question. Please tell me if it didn't.
Yeah, it did.
Does anyone else have a question?
I think Edgar wrote in the chat box that they have one.
Yeah, we had a question, but Chris it was kind of related to the same question that Chris had.
Does panelists like to also expand or answer that same question? Arlene?
Yeah, I'm going to answer Mia's question in the chat if no one wants to follow up. But Mia asked, how do you all implement self-care in your schedules? And I'll say that Canopy has really good rituals that implement self-care. We have like a reflection week where we try not to schedule any meetings, but we also have like just really understanding coworkers that like will step in when you can't like go to work or something happens and you need the day off. There's like this really deep understanding of like letting them rest and heal and stuff. But we have way more conversations about what self-care looks like in the environmental justice field. And we are always open to dialogue. And I think that's just within itself, like form of self-care that Canopy as an organization does. So I would say to that one.
I like to answer too.
Yeah, I can go after Indira.
Oh, sorry, Evany.
Oh, no.
I think we have to make the time. It's got to be intentional. At work, yes, I think Canopy is, getting like Arlene shared, a good process or space to at work. But we have different other things going on in our lives, family or interests, a whole lot of other things anyway going on. So everybody, I think, should consciously make the time. It should be intentional. It can be short, it can be long, that's fine. And in my case, actually, it's different for different moods I am actually. But I always make sure that I make the time, because, if you are not 100%, you cannot function properly. And that will affect not just yourself, but your work, your decisions, everything. It's just like spirals off. So it's not even a small walk is great. Listening to music quietly for 10 minutes is great. A nap is fantastic sometimes. Or, just completely tune out and, watch cartoons maybe. Whatever it is. I mean, I think we should all have a little, I have a little kitty of different things, and I can pick and choose when I feel like, depending on my mood. So, but it's very important for one to be healthy, that one needs to make the time for self-care.
Yeah, actually, a lot of what Indira says is very similar to my my own self-care implementations. I think the best part is knowing that if there's no big deadline that you need to set by, Canopy doesn't hound us about making sure that we're doing things at a 9 to 5 on a 9 to 5 day. So if you feel like you've done everything that you need to do for the day, take a break in the middle and pick up later, or just sort of do what you can that day. And sure, there are going to be days where it's not as possible to implement self-care, in which case sometimes, thankfully, a lot of the time, things like potluck at work, that one's actually been like a good self-care for me because I love food. Other ways I do it will be like take a half-hour nap in the middle and pick up a little extra time at the end of the day to work if it doesn't look like a 9 to 5, but overall you've done essentially 8 hours of work and you're not falling so far behind that you feel like you're struggling. But also just knowing that you can work at your own pace has been really helpful. And one of my weird forms well, I wouldn't say weird, but a form of self-care for me is to plan so far ahead that we're talking like 3 months ahead, and then next thing you know, 2 months later, you're like, oh, I've got nothing left to do. So I just practice more self-care. So it's kind of an interesting process, but that's usually how I do it, is food, TV, naps, and planning ahead.
It looks like we have time for one last question. This question is from Jose and it's directed to Jonathan. His question is, how did being a tough later impact your life?
Yeah, so being a tough impacted my life by I was, like I said before, like I was really shy when I first entered being tough, but just working on projects and doing a lot of more communication between just the community in general. It helped me just to build up communication skills and being able to like talk in front of people just like right now. And also I say that I also learned a lot from like just working at Canopy, as in taking care of trees. Like every time I walk around campus, I notice a lot of trees that need to either be pruned or taken care of, like removing the stakes. And it's like, I don't know, it's just I just keep what I've learned from Canopy, and then I just know I will be able to like implement it in the future. Did I answer your question, or want me to emphasize anything else?
Jose, would you like for him to expand, or did that answer your question?
I think he's good.
Okay, awesome. So I do want to be mindful of time. We have 1 more minute, but I do want to take this time to thank all of our speakers, Evany, Jonathan, Indira, Arlene. Thank you so much for sharing about your roles, about how you got here, about your life story. I know this is definitely going to help all students and even those who are still unsure of what they want to pursue, know that it's okay not to have a official or completely know what to do. I'm going to share my screen again to invite everyone to our next series. Hopefully everyone is able to view my screen. So next up, next Wednesday, we have our second session, and the topic is community voices. It will be held through Zoom again at the same time, 5:30 p.m. We will have speakers from all different backgrounds. A couple of them you can see here on the screen, which will be Maya, Uriel, Mary, and Vera. And then lastly, we will have our last session on March 8th. And the topic will be the power of representation in the field. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. With that being said, I want to thank you all for joining us today, and I hope you have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. It was a pleasure.